Okay, we're recording.
Yes. What's up, Stewie?
Good morning, friend. How are you, buddy?
Good morning, friend. Just living the
Um,
dream. It's raining outside, quarantining it up. It's Jakey's seventh birthday. All good, man.
7 years old.
Dude,
Dang, man. Dude is getting big.
it's crazy. It's crazy. I'm gonna start taking jujitsu because he's like a little ball of muscle and he's challenging me. So
Didn't
I need the edge.
didn't we record another podcast episode on Maya's birthday? I feel like we did. Or maybe
Yeah, I
was it
think
the
so.
day after?
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Yep.
Well, everybody listening to this or watching this, it'll be after the fact, but wish Jake, yeah, a happy birthday.
I will. Thank you, friend.
Yeah. So this is filling the Storehouse podcast, episode 11. And yeah, we got got some talking points today that we were kind of thinking through. Um,
Yeah,
and
we want to do a little different today. We were talking about it, and we one of the questions that we've been asking our guests is what happens when things go wrong. And as we were talking through it, I think we've kind of forgotten a couple of the deals that went really wrong for us. And this one's a special gem. I think we have two, like, for different reasons, two real special gems. But this one was our first. This one was early on. And it was painful. Everything from the beginning to end was pretty painful on this one. And I don't. Do we even make a profit on this deal?
now we lost money on this one for
Do
sure.
we lost
Yeah,
money? Yeah, yeah,
yeah, we definitely lost money on this one. This was like a pretty big punch in the face, you know.
yeah,
I love that. I love the saying. I think it's Mike Tyson who said it. Like, you don't really know who you truly are until you get punched in the face,
yeah,
and how you react to that.
yeah. We got punched in the face for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was rough. It was
So
rough.
yeah, so like David said, one of the questions that we always ask, that we have been asking on the podcast to guests is, give us an example of when things went wrong, and how you reacted to that and the lessons learned behind it. Because I personally feel, I know you feel the same way, David, that um, you know the best lessons are the ones that you fail on, and learning from that and how you pick yourself up, and work through it, and it just makes you better. The adversity, and how you react to that, really just truly just makes you better for it in the long run.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we'll get to some of the lessons learned in the end. But before we start, I mean, a lot of this stuff, as we're going through it, a lot of the time that we spent on our why, we kind of kept going back to that, and really that helped us to make decisions through the process, and helped us uh, to know the things that we had to do as we were going through it. And it was, I'm very grateful to you and to the process that we went through, that we actually spent the time to do that, because it helped us get through this type of stuff. And one thing that kept popping up in my head as preparing for this, and as we we're going through it, was the fact that, as a faith-based business, we rely on our faith and the word, and Romans 5:3-5 kept popping in my head as we went through this. And it says, we can rejoice too when we run into problems and trials, for we know that they help us develop endurance, and endurance develops strength of character, and character strengthens our confident hope of salvation. And this hope will not lead to disappointment, for we know that how dearly God loves us, because he has given us the Holy Spirit to fill our hearts with his love. And really what that is, the endurance and the process of, rejoicing in your problems and your trials, because that helps you build endurance, and that endurance builds that perseverance, and you press forward. And I think that was really applicable in this situation as well.
Oh, 100%, man. Definitely took some perseverance on getting through this issue. So this was somewhat early on in our stage of building out our business. We had done probably 5-6 deals.
Yeah, it was pretty early.
Yeah, it's pretty early. So this was a house for one of our investors, who's bought a house since, and refers other investors to us all the time, and true believer in our business and who we are, and will stick with us. And he'll probably listen to this and he'll probably know exactly who we're talking about. But this
We
was
also joke that we joke that he's made more money from all the referral fees we paid him over the
yeah,
real estate. So yeah, he's awesome. We love this guy.
yeah. Um, so this was a house that we got decided to kind of try to get a little creative on. It was outside of our normal kind of bread and butter rehab. Our typical rehab is just a straight, 3 bedroom, 1 bath, 1,000 square foot house, and or 2 bedroom, 1 bath. Kind of just straight, nothing creative here. But this one it was a 2 bedroom, 1 bath, but it had a full basement that was unfinished, and so we decided that we were going to try to finish it out and add a third bedroom down in the basement. It hadn't been something that we had done so far, and we thought we could do like a value add play and really bump up what the value of the property is worth by adding another bedroom. And so that was our initial play on this one. We thought we'd get better rents, and we thought we'd get a better appraisal in the end. But that was kind of the start of it all, right?
Right, right, right. And our contractors, the first crew that we had brought on, uh, they had been habitually late, and the truth was a little bit elusive. A lot of things that we were talking about with them, hey, what's the timeline? What are you looking at? Is this next week? Is this tomorrow? And really from the get-go, we've always told a lot of the contractors, and it's actually written in our contracts that there's, it's to their benefit to be on time or early. And then as they get later and later, we let them set their timelines. And as they get later and later, then it's obviously not to their benefit. And so, we've told them from the get-go, let's just communicate and we're good. Just let us know so we can communicate with the investor, and the process will work, and we'll extend you grace, you extend us grace, and we'll build a business off of that. And they were all about it, when we were talking about it, when we went out to Milwaukee and visited them. But that's not really the way it was playing out. And, I think, right before we started recording, you gave an example of that. And if you don't mind just covering that again,
Yeah.
I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think I remember posting a picture of it. It was pretty funny. So, I mean, it was like day of deadline on the contract, and rehab was supposed to be complete, and we reached out to our contractor and just kind of was like, "Hey, how's everything going?" And it took a while to respond, and their response was, "Oh yeah, everything's going great. Should be done in about 2 to 3 days. We're almost there." And we normally will have Mama G go and do walkthrough videos and kind of check on all the properties. And so that had been done first. So the contractors came back and said, "Yeah, we have a few days. We needed an extension for a couple of days. Need to kind of work through some flooring issues." And then Mama G went over there, I think the next day, and she sent us a picture. And literally, there was a toilet in the middle of the living room. On the living room floors had wood underneath. They ripped up all the carpet, and there was natural wood underneath. And so the floors were all ripped up. Like the wood floors hadn't been sanded, nothing stained, and there's a toilet in the middle of the living room floor. And she took a picture of that, and I thought it was hilarious. I think I posted it on Facebook or something like that. But
And they were
um,
right. They did have some flooring issues. They had a toilet on the floor, and so yeah, that there was there was, I guess there was, in their version, there was a little bit of truth to that. And I think that was one of the things that and why this kind of all came to head is we always communicate that why, right? And we always communicate our core values, and we make sure that everybody we do business with understands where we're coming from, so that we can all kind of row in the same direction. And if there's a deviation from that, we understand where that deviation is and why it is. And with integrity being paramount in our business, that was something that was just starting to grate at you and I. That was something that was not acceptable. And the kind of the half truths and the well, we've got 2 more days. Well, you don't have 2 more days. Like, let's just be honest with it. Give us an honest assessment. We can press from there. Because there's an impact all through the entire business, right? We can't trust them, our investor, more importantly, by default. Can they trust us? If we're telling them, hey, this thing will be ready in a couple of days. So we just stopped telling anything we heard from them. We had to verify everything. And then that comes into the time, and we talked about the speed of trust with John previously. If there's no speed of trust, if it's the opposite, there's a significant multiplicative factor of slowing things down.
Big word, dude.
It was multiplicative.
Yeah.
Multiplicative at a high angle of increase.
Okay.
And it just significantly slows everything down. And it just bogs the whole process, and it's not good. It's not a good place to be. And ultimately it led to us letting these guys go mid job. And what we didn't realize, that the toilet in the middle of the floor was only the beginning of the drama.
Yeah. There was, they started talking about doing big work order changes and, wanted to change up the entire plan for the flooring. Because ultimately they knew that they were so behind that, now they were coming up with the reasons and excuses of, trying to change it to, be a faster job for them so they could get through it. We were going to sand the floors down, stain them, make them really nice. And then, all of a sudden now they were like, there's too many nails in the floor and it's going to mess up our sander. And, we need to just do vinyl plank over the top of it instead. And just tons of reasons why they couldn't finish the job. And then David and I kind of had to take a step back and kind of think through this. And, we ultimately decided that we needed to let them go. And that started down another conversation path and led towards some kind of some ugly allegations and some behind the back gossiping and threats of lawsuits. And so that was not a fun process for sure.
No, not at all. And it's kind of crazy too, because we, from the get-go, we also, not only do we want to honor our business, we want to honor our customers, but we want to honor those that work for us, right? And so from the get-go, we started trying to figure out what would make it right as far as paying them. And I think we initiated that conversation, said, hey, look, you guys are done. We can't have you on the job anymore. But how much? Give us a price for the work that you've done so far. And they're already well over budget. I mean, just everything every block that you could check on what you don't want from a contractor was checked by them. And the number that they initially put out was very high. They were just trying to get as much money as they could out of the deal. And so we came back with another number, and we ended up finally settling on a number that was very advantageous to them, which we were fine with. But again, that process and the threats of the lawsuits. I had some interesting conversations in that period, and so did Mama G. And what it ultimately boiled down to is I knew where we stood. I knew where we were right. And you are meticulous in your record keeping, and this has paid off a couple of times for us. But we had all the data, and so when threatening phone calls came, like, hey, you want to get sued? My answer was like, I'll meet you in court. We can do that. And it was not threatening from my perspective. It wasn't to be contentious or to try to, get into some kind of messy process. But at the end of the day, I knew where we stood. I know why we were doing things and what we did them for, and we were doing them in the right way. And so all those threats and allegations, all that stuff went away. As expected. But again, in that process, it could be very stressful, and it just slowed everything down. And we were, this is pretty early on, and we're just like, oh my gosh, man, is this something that we even want to be dealing with? But we knew we did.
And we're using private money, right? So, we had loans on it. So, so we had to pay off the contractor to get him off the job. It was costing us interest every single day. And then we figured out, like, they were doing kind of crappy work. So we had to go back. We had to find a new contractor. We had to go back and do rework on all of the stuff that we found. The time associated with that. So, I look back at where, we keep a timeline of like when we buy it and when we sell it, and we keep like, how much time is so our typical deal is anywhere from us purchasing a set to selling it is typically 60 to 75 days, maybe, right? So, kind of 2.5 months, something like that. We bought this house in early August, and we didn't sell it till the very end of December. So, like, double our typical kind of timeline for getting a deal done.
Yeah, I
So
didn't
that
realize that. I didn't. Again, back to your record keeping, which is awesome. I didn't realize it was that long. And yeah, that's crazy, and that's money, right? Time is money, and it also, time is emotional investment, time is relational investment, and most of those other things were going very poorly outside of our core. Those investments were the return on investment was very, very low, if not negative, in each of those categories. And we really liked initially, we really liked these as dudes. We really liked this crew, and then it just, man, it got so ugly so quickly. I don't know if you remember that, but it just was such a negative vibe, and we just could not. We got out of that as we should have got out of it much quicker. And I think, before we get to those lessons learned, the cherry on top of this whole deal is not only did we lose a crew, go over budget, lose time, lost money, lost relationships, a lot of negativity, a lot of rework. The emotional and relational cost was high, but the property didn't appraise, which was, that was just the cherry on top. And
yeah,
and when I said didn't appraise, like, I'm not talking about a few $1,000 because, again, it goes back to our why. We know exactly what we're going to do if a place doesn't appraise, but this place really didn't
like
appraise.
didn't appraise.
Yeah, I was like, real low. We're going to sell it for what, about $100,000, and it came in at 78.
Yeah, so I just looked through my email that I sent to our investor, and yeah, sales price on this one was 100,000, and the appraisal came back at 78,000. So like way way below what we were expecting, and we went back to the appraiser. We looked at his report, and we looked at all of his comparables that he was using, and they were all 2-bedroom, 1 bath. And so we were like, hey, this is a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. Actually, it was a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, I think, is what we ended up doing. We decided to put a half bath downstairs as well. And so we were like, you know, what in the world? Like, these are all the wrong comps,
Wouldn't
and
budge.
no budge. Yep. That it
Yep.
would. He's like, the lender on the deal was like, oh, sorry, it's already at underwriting. Can't go back. It is what it is. And so for us, we're like, oh man, hey, what do we do? Like, we haven't had this issue before. All of our properties have appraised, at or above, and knock on wood, we've had pretty good success, so far with that aspect of it. But man, another punch in the face. Like, what do we do? It's so low. I mean, if we looked at it and like, we can't sell it for 78,000. Like, we would
No.
we would have gotten crushed. Like, that was way. I mean, we spent way more money than 78,000
Right. And
on
I
the deal.
think the crazy part is we knew what we were gonna we had talked through, not, places not appraising. We knew exactly what we were gonna do in that situation. We just did not know what we were gonna do. We never expected it to appraise that low. And that 78,000, I mean, the place was gonna rent for over $1,000, and we
Yeah.
knew it was a good deal. At $100,000, it was a pretty good deal. At 78, I mean, we had decided that, we might as well just keep it and make money on it ourselves. But we knew what we were going to do from the perspective of the buyer, that we were just going to lower the price, because we had discussed that before we even had our first appraisal. But 78,000 was just not doable. We were already way over budget. So we were just going to take such a big bath. And I think, you know, so what happened? What do we do?
Yeah, so it actually was already rented, or there's a lease in place. I think it was rented for 1150. So I mean, it was super nice house. And like, so at the end of the day, like we went back, did the full rehab, like reworked everything. Because that, I mean, we're going to rehab a house to our standard, like regardless of how much it costs. So we had to go back, redo stuff, cost us more money, and place was rented really fast. Like there was a renter in there for 1150, which was over what our pro forma was. I think our pro forma was at 1100. So, fantastic deal, fantastic rental. And so we reached back out to the investor and said, "Hey, here's the deal." So we straight up honest with them. Came back. Here's the appraisal. We can't change it. Here's what we were going to sell for. Here's what it appraised for. Here's all the comps that we are using, and we sent all the comps to the investor. Here's what the numbers look like, and we were just honest with them, like we can't sell it to you for 78,000. So let's kind of meet halfway. Let's split the difference. Yes, you're going to have to bring a little bit more money to the table to close, but if you compare that to what you would have had to do for a down payment at that original sale price of 100,000, it was very, very comparable. So so we met in the middle. We asked them to buy it for, I think it was 89,000. So $11,000 difference off of a reduction off of what we were going to sell it for, and I think he ended up having to pay, I think it was like 5,500 or 6,000, something like that, something close to that, on top of what he was originally going to have to put down. And so we were like, that's option one. You can choose to, hey, we'll split the difference. Option two is, hey, let's just walk away from the deal. Your choice, totally. If you want to walk away from it, you'll get your earnest money back. No harm, no foul. Say thanks but no thanks. Walk away from it, and we'll all be okay with that. And then that would mean that we would have just held the property and kept it as a rental for ourselves. Because at the end of the day, it was cash flowing really well.
Right.
And
Right.
he ended up choosing to split it and meet us in the middle and buy it for 89,000. And I mean, buying it for 89,000 and renting for 1150, like, I mean, fantastic deal, like great
Right.
cash flow from him, for his perspective. So he ended up getting a really good deal on it. And, at the end of the day, we lost money on that one for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's also important, one of the things that we had talked through when you go back to knowing your why and kind of get into the lesson learned, um, one of the things that was really important to me was I had experience with uh, turnkey providers. And one of the things that just kind of drove me nuts was uh, their plan for when a place doesn't appraise. And the average numbers that I got, they expect from probably three different uh, turnkey companies in 2 to 3 different parts of the country. They expected a 75% appraisal rate, meaning 25% of the time, the place was not going to appraise, but you're in a contract and you just bring the difference to the table, and that was just part of the business. And I'm not saying that I'm not judging that. That's the business model, and I wouldn't say they're necessarily upfront with that. That is a question. If you're gonna, for those of you listening out there, that should be part of your due diligence. Ask that question: what happens when a place doesn't appraise? Because you already put in you're under contract, you put in your earnest money. Like, it's an important question, and that caused me to not do business with a number of them because they didn't expect that the place to appraise at 100% rate. We expect it in Storehouse. We expect it to appraise at 100%, at or better than the cost. That's why we price them the way we price them. But the sometimes it doesn't work out. But the point to that is I knew how I felt. You know how you felt being told, well, hey, it didn't appraise, so just bring the difference to the table. And that just never sat right with me. So we knew what we were going to do in this. We talked about places not appraising before we even had an appraisal, and we knew we were just going to drop the price. This situation was a bit different because it was so low, and it was quite frankly, it was just absolutely ridiculous. It wasn't even, when you talk about getting comps, the comps that this house what he priced it at wasn't even comparable to the comps.
Yeah, they were
It was
like even
just,
far out. Like, most
it wasn't.
comps are like within a certain little neighborhood. Like the comps he was using was like in like different zip codes. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy, and you can't. There's nothing you could do about that. But I guess we could have gone through the process of contesting it, but we went a different route. With all that being said, is lesson learned number one: know your why. You have to know your why to understand what you're going to do in times of adversity. And I know we harp on it a lot, and some of our listeners out there might be like, "Gosh, this guy all they ever talks about is know your why." But I tell you what, when you know your why and when you've gone through and tested it, you know what you're going to do in times of adversity, and it makes your decision making process go faster. It makes you able to adjust to the difficulties, and then you can press. You can press forward, and you're not sitting there bogged down on things that you could easily get through if you knew beforehand what you were going to do in those specific situations. You can't game plan and war game every single scenario, but you'd be surprised at how many things that you could really solve before they ever happen.
Yeah, it's so true. That the next lesson learned that I think is huge that we we learned on this one big time was, um, I had heard it from another investor, and it kind of stuck with me for a while. And this one really came to truth here was the saying of fire fast and hire slow. And like we said with this contractor that we were using, we were just starting our business. We were kind of putting a lot of trust and faith in this contractor to do well, and they had already started to show signs of not having really great processes and systems and not being really good at business. We had already been late on a few jobs prior, and lots of excuses, lots of pointing fingers, lots of not taking, not accepting their own fault for being late on jobs. And David and I think we even had talked about like, these guys, like, they keep on being late. We talked about it, but we didn't really have any other options at the time, and so we just kept on using them because we didn't really have another crew. And looking back on it, we should have just kind of not let them take the job. We should have just, really started trying to reach out and try to find another contractor. So that fire fast and hire slow. And from the hiring perspective, I mean, you got to find people, and we've talked about it already, is you got to find people that have those same core values and know your why, know your core values ahead of time, and make sure we're all on the same page. And we didn't do that with these
That's
guys.
time well invested. Always, it's always time well invested. And for another term, measure twice and cut once, right? These are all very wise sayings. We say them, but if you don't adhere to them, then you're gonna get stuck in a situation. And yeah, we should have fired them after the second job. You give them one chance, you kind of mess up, you give it second chance, and then at that point, yep, sorry, it's not working out. Good luck in the future, and we just go our separate ways. And but good lesson learned for us, and I think we're in a much better spot now. Um, the other one is lesson learned: bad news doesn't get better with time. And this is something that I've told my sailors for years and years, and these are lessons that you bring from one career to another. But we were very quickly communicated with the buyer, and then we started to come up with plans to move forward and execute. And we had a couple different options, but do not delay. The bad news does not get better. If we would have delayed, it would have bogged it down, and then it erodes trust. As soon as we know something and we knew it was wrong, reach out to the investor or the buyer and be like, hey, here's a situation. This is what happened. How do you want to proceed? And I think I loved your email to him. Now I remember it. There was like 3 COAs. One was, we split the difference. 2 was, whatever 2 was. And I think your third was, just say you don't want the deal and forget about Storehouse and move on and never talk to us again. And we would
Tell us
understand.
tell us we suck.
Tell us we suck and never talk to us again. And luckily nobody's chosen option 3 up to this point.
Always an option. They can always tell us we suck and walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's huge, man. And like you said, that's same in the Navy, right? Same in the Navy, as we are kind of in those leadership positions now, I want my sailors to immediately tell me when something's going wrong, and not hide it, not make excuses. Because the sooner you get that bad news out of the way, the better. You can come up with a game plan and come up with that plan B, which is kind of the last lesson learned that we kind of thought about on this transaction was you always have to have a plan B. Always have to have a plan B. And in the real estate perspective, you need to have like two minimum, three probably better of exit strategies. What are you going to do if the deal goes south, and game plan that beforehand, and have a plan in place, to what you're going to do. These properties, they're not super expensive, and so that came into our decision making process from the very beginning of creating the business, was where do we want to have this business and what type of model do we want to have. But what are your options? Do you keep it as a rental? Do you try to sell or finance it? Do you wholesale it? So there's so many different exit strategies that you can do in real estate, and having the knowledge of those, ahead of time is also incredibly important. Having the wherewithal to know those different options, when stuff goes wrong is
Yeah, and that's
huge.
again, that should be established before you buy your first deal. And we know at our price point and what we're looking for that if a deal, we know going into a deal, even with this flip we're doing right now, if everything goes bad, we know that a viable plan B, the plan has to be viable as well. A viable plan B is to turn around and rent it out, and we just take the cash flow, because at that point we own the house for cash, because that's part of our business model. We buy it for cash, pay for the rehab, so we have a fully paid for house that's renting for potentially over $1,000 a month. That's decent cash flow, and so that is a good plan B. Not ideal. It ties up our funds, but it's not a huge loss every month. We can keep those and keep them on our books and make money off of them, and that's all good. So there's a lot of pluses there, and that's a solid, strong plan B that we built into the business before we ever bought our first deal.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. Well, I hear kiddos in the background, and it's Jakey's birthday, so we'll wrap this thing up. But we thought we'd do something. We're gonna try to start having more guests, but we'll kind of mix in just a one-on-one conversation every now and then. So we hope you got something out of that. Really, it's just kind of running through adversity, figuring out what you do with it, and how you react to it, and learn from it and grow from it. It's a huge part of building a business, and I think it's super important. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it. And hey, share this. If you guys like what you're listening to, share it with your friends. We'd love, if you guys post something on your social media channels, tag us. We'll give you a shout out in your next one. So that's kind of an ask from us, is hey, start sharing this within your network so we can get more listeners, and hopefully we can add value to more people.
Yeah, this was fun, man. And it's always fun to kind of go back as well and really think from some of the places where we came from. You're always evolving, always growing, and I'll tell you, from where we were back then to where we are now, and some of the amazing people we've met, and just how our business has been refined, and is pretty cool to go back. It's pretty cool to just see that growth, and to track that, and really remember some of the tougher times, because again, where we are now with coronavirus, I mean, it's going to present some challenges, and it's also going to present some opportunities as well. So I encourage you guys out there during these types of times, take the time to, if you have extra time, kind of reflect back, look back on the business, look back on the command, look back on whatever it is that you're doing, assess where you've excelled and where you potentially have not, and grow from there. Take those, be self-critical, be self-aware, and as you look through it, understand your why better, and then press and make, even the coronavirus quarantine times, make that time work for you, and make it the best you could possibly make it. So it's good. It was fun.
Yeah, man, for sure. All right, well, go enjoy your family. Go have a blessed day, and go fill your storehouse.
Make it a great day.
See ya.